Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are just going to take a few moments to wait for everybody to join us. And today, as you are aware, this is Blooming Minds Education. We're going to be talking about the roadmap to college success. And we're just going to start off with a quick poll. And if everybody can see my screen, what we're going to do is we're going to activate this question so that everybody can give us an answer on have you ever been through the college process before as a parent? And you are welcome to either click this link in the chat to submit your answer, or bear with me one second, or you can also text. So I will be posting this link to our chat as we speak. So this is our first poll question, and we will be seeing responses live. So if you can all just take a moment and click on the link in the chat room. Beautiful. I already see some responses coming in. Thank you so much. And we're just going to take a couple more seconds with this chat, with this poll, and then we're going to move on to our next question. If you did already submit for this one, I'm going to activate our second one, and you will be able to answer that one as well. And this question is going to be, what grade is your high school student in? So our first poll was, have you been through the college process before as a parent? And so far we're leaning towards the no side. And our second question is, what grade is your high school student in? Thank you everyone for being so proactive with this. And we're just about to start as we let everybody else join us. Thank you again for joining us today. A lot of ninth graders, okay. Right, so I think we'll be starting at 7:05. And we'll just give 2 more minutes for everyone to answer our chat. Again, this is our poll, which is going to be, what grade is your high school student in? Just so that we can get a feel of what our audience is for this evening. You can also answer the poll by texting. Okay. Okay. So the poll is still going to be active. Again, you can just look for the link in the chat or text it to your phone. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'm going to pass it to you, Nicole.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Really looking forward to this evening. We're going to be sharing with you a lot of information that will be, I think, brand new for the 9th and 10th grade parents. Some 11th grade parents may have a sense of some of it, but we're really excited to have you here this evening and to show you some components of the college journey that your students are either just beginning or will be beginning soon. So I just want to get started with the slideshow, and pardon me, Faye is going to introduce herself first.
Hi, everyone. Hi, well, this is Faye. I work with the high school student for the past 15 years. And then so I currently working with the student as a senior consultant. Well, Is it Nicole?
Sure. Yes, I'm Nicole Butterfield, and I've been working with middle and high school students for over 30 years, including in the classroom, in the admissions office, and most recently as a senior consultant. I enjoy supporting middle and high school students on their journey through both the school experience and then the application experience, whether they're applying to private school out of 8th grade or applying to college. And I really look forward to this evening. Over to you, Jean.
Hey, I've been doing college counseling and support services for 22. This is my 23rd year. For the last 2 years, I've been an independent, but before that, I worked at a independent school. And so most of my experience has been with 9, 10, 11, and 12, of course. And my joy is helping students find good fit schools and for them to build the best, most authentic application to show the colleges who they are and what they've done throughout all their 4 years in high school.
All right, great. So tonight we're going to walk you through a little bit of the common application to give you a preview, because this is going to be the heart and soul of your students' effort in writing on behalf of him or herself. And we're going to give you a little overview of this application, which is the one that most colleges and universities require. And we're also going to give you some strategies for high school students that will benefit their personal development and their college process. So once you create an account on the Common App website, this is what you're going to see in front of you. And the tab, the Common App tab, if you look on the left-hand side, gives you a list of all of the writing work that you're going to need to do for the student to identify him or herself to the college. And most of this information is fairly straightforward and factual: your profile, your family, your education, your testing. But then we get to two that are highly intensive, work intensive and thought intensive: the activities list and the writing, which will include the personal statement as well as any supplemental essays or questions that the individual colleges might want you to answer. And this is the area where the bulk of our work is once a student is in the college application process in the 11th grade normally. Okay. Jean.
Okay, this slide just before this showed the middle tab being the Common App tab. The one just to the left of that said My Colleges. And students, as they begin to learn about colleges and good fit colleges for themselves, and they can start doing this even on the Common Application before they're actually old enough to be applicants. They can add schools to their list. We've just included this one sample, which is Columbia University. We selected it not because it's Columbia University necessarily, but because it's very specific in the way it articulates what their requirements are. So for this page, actually, we're going to be showing you 3 slides, but it's actually 1 page for the student who's looking at this on their Common Application. They can just scroll down to see top to bottom. So the top that you're looking at right now, it provides multiple ways for the student to learn, to either reach out and contact the college or learn about the college. It's very obvious, I think, that college website, you're going to be going to the college website and you can search around, and that can take hours and hours, and you can spend a lot of time and learn a lot about a college in that way. A virtual tour is often led by a student, and it's administered through the admissions office. Students sometimes also find ways to tour colleges through YouTube and that kind of thing. And then there's the College Navigator, which is a very underused tool. And I highly recommend that parents in particular at the beginning click on this, because it's information's been compiled by the US Department of Education, and there's all sorts of great statistics and facts. So you might not get a sense of the personality of the school, but you will get a sense of the school setting, the size, the student-faculty ratio, tuition and fees, financial aid, admissions, retention rate, that kind of thing. It's really a treasure trove of information, so I highly recommend that. The next slide is mostly self-explanatory. It'll show, does this school have early decision? Early decision, the D is done. If you apply early decision and you get in, you're done. There's also something called early action, but this school doesn't offer that. If it did, it would be listed up in the upper left-hand corner. An application fee, test policy information. This is in flux with every school right now because of COVID, and most schools are test optional for this upcoming class. So if you have a rising senior, most schools still are score optional, but we don't know what'll happen for 24 or 25. And regardless, if you have high scores, you usually want to submit them anyway. The two things that are maybe less easily understood just here is something called courses and grades. And on the slide that Nicole showed you, underneath writing, there was something called courses and grades. Columbia doesn't use it. And in fact, only 63 of the 979 schools on the Common App use it. And it's just students have to input their own grades. And it's a way for you to have to do the work, and that the college doesn't have to pay to have somebody on their side do the inputting. I'm surprised only 63 schools use it, actually. And then there's also something to save school forms after matriculation. And it has to do with the FERPA rights of a student. And so that's a long explanation. So we'll do that some other day. So the next slide, and this is why we chose this particular school, is because Columbia articulates very specifically what it is that is required in the writing portion of the application for them. Everybody, almost every school will want, even if they don't require it, and almost all do, but even if they don't require it, they will all read the Common App personal essay. So that's important. This particular school has questions based on whether you're applying to engineering or to the college. And then there's a supplement, and they clearly state that there's a supplement, and there's 5 required questions, which sounds like a lot, but some of them are very small, like list the books you've read that are meaningful, that kind of thing. So don't be intimidated. However, these are really important questions. On a supplement for a college, they're asking specifically because they want to know, versus something that's in the main Common App, which every school wants to know. So this is, I think, really important. Sometimes they'll say, see where it says 2 optional questions. In some cases, they really are optional. Like it might say, are there circumstances you want to explain that explain something like a grade drop in 10th grade, and maybe you don't have something that you need to explain. And so that truly is optional, but other things they'll say are optional, but really aren't. If you want to demonstrate that you're really interested in a school, anything that you can answer, you always do want to. Students spend dozens and dozens of hours working on their applications, and they make them as perfect as they can. And the team here certainly supports them to make their application as authentic and as convincing of an argument for why they should be accepted to this school as they can. These particular ones are very specific to a college, but there's also the Common App essay, which every college will get. And that's an opportunity that, well, actually, let's let Nicole talk about that.
Okay, so the personal essay, right, or personal statement on the Common App is the one that every single college will read and receive. And students spend a lot of time and energy on this one, and they should. It's a 650-word personal narrative that essentially explains a little bit about who you are and what you care about. And it requires the student to reflect on their experiences. And that can be really challenging because generally speaking, this type of nonfiction narrative writing is not taught in school exactly in this way. So students get a little bit intimidated sometimes by this process. So one of the things that we do is try to demystify it for them and really help them to see that their own personal experiences do matter, and they can tell a story about it and explain why it matters to them. And it doesn't have to be some huge drama. It could be a very small detail from life that can really capture the attention of that admissions officer who's going to spend a very brief time reading it. You're going to spend a ton of time writing it. And so there are just a few things I wanted to say about this for you. First of all, these questions do not have a single correct answer, right? The best answer that the student can provide is the honest answer that reflects something about their life, okay? And normally when we work with students, there are 1 or 2 prompts that really seem doable to the student, right? Occasionally we have someone who says, none of these really speak to me. I don't feel like I could write about any of these. And the good news is, as we look at the remaining, there are only 7 prompts. Magic number 7 says, share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, or one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So this gives the student license to write pretty much anything that they'd like to write. But still, the requirement is that after reading this essay, an admissions person should be able to understand a little bit more about who the student is and what they're all about. And this does require a lot of reflection, brainstorming, and a lot of students write something early on in the summer before their senior year. And then over time, they can change their minds, because we know high school students transform almost before our eyes. So they might have an experience during that summer of 11th grade that they realize, wait, I want to write about this. And so the first essay that they wrote becomes the practice, which is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. So we encourage a lot of practice with personal reflection along the way, which is not generally taught in school. So over to you, Jean. We're going to talk about the activities. Yeah.
This is part of the main Common App, so that central tab that we started with, and students can enter up to 10 activities, at least for now. There's always a little change about, is that too many, and should we make it a few less? But I know for at least the next 1 and possibly 2 years, it will still be 10. And they are also listed eventually in order of importance to the student, to the extent that you can, because how do you compare community service with, a sport? One might be clearly more important, they might be equally important, but they're just different. So on the next slide, we're going to show something that has been edited. This isn't exactly what it looks like when you have this on the Common App itself, but there's a pull-down menu that says you pick the activity type, and there's as we saw in the prior slide, 3 different areas where you can type in some information, and there's actually very, very strict limits on these. So in this case, it's 50 characters on that top line, where it says position, 100 characters, where it says position, leadership, or organization name, and then 150 characters, not words, characters, to explain what the activity is. And on first glance, to many of you, you might think that the before and the after are not that different. But in fact, they're quite different, because, as Nicole alluded to, the student might spend dozens of hours writing this application. The reader of this application will spend, if we're lucky, 15 minutes reading it. And that includes everything that has to do with it. That includes your transcript, your teacher recommendation letters, your counselor letters, your essays, the supplemental work that you've done, depending on whether the school asks for supplements or not. So there's a lot of reading to be done, all in 15 is actually generous, sometimes it's less. So you want them to be able to glean as much as possible. When they're reading the activity section, and it usually appears as 1 sheet of paper, or maybe 1 sheet and a third, if you use all 10 slots, they're kind of reading like this as they go down. They're trying to put together a story of who this kid is, what is important enough to them that they spend time on it. So you want to use action verbs. You want to talk about what you did and what made this important to you. How did you add to this activity? Everybody knows what varsity basketball is, even though it's explained better on the right than the left. And I don't want to belabor it, but it is. If you see what it looks like when it's on the application, you can see that the two position and organization name end up being married into one title, and it's just much easier to understand. So this is where, this is also usually done in a Google Doc offline and then loaded into the Common App. And this is where having a coach help the student, one, if you're young and in ninth grade, helping you to see how activities form who you are, for one thing, and how you might appeal to colleges. And the most important thing is that those activities appeal to yourself so that you stick with them and maybe achieve leadership positions. But then a coach like Nicole, for instance, would be able to help you to word it and to use those 150 characters that you have to better explain each activity. Because usually the activity section, they're going to spend between 60 and 90 seconds reading it.
All right, great, thank you. So just very briefly, I think when you see these, you'll recognize them as qualities that are just great qualities in a human being. And we've just divided them into academic and personal to give you a moment to just reflect on your own student and the qualities that you think might be their strengths or might be areas for development, and to think about how they might develop those either in an academic setting or in an extracurricular setting. And of course, there's some overlap here, but these are qualities that colleges are looking for in your students, and they're looking at the application to try to find evidence of a lot of these. And so for your GPA to reflect your student, it has resilience and grit and persistence to work really hard is important. And for them to show that in their extracurricular life, they have some confidence, that they're kind. I mean, kindness is a little bit hard to quantify, but it can be expressed in a description on that activities list, and it can be expressed in the personal statement. So these are almost like subliminal messages, but also really clear messages that you might be able to send in your application, depending on how you organize your list, depending on what you say about the activities that you do. And one of the best ways to ensure that your child will have something to say and activities that they're excited to write about is to ensure that they are authentically engaged in those activities, right? And so this is just a brief overview. If you've been with us before, you've heard me talk about this. Admissions officers are really looking for authentic engagement, meaning the child is not doing this to check a box, right? The child is doing this out of genuine interest, enthusiasm, and love, and loves it so much that they'd want all their friends to do it with them, or that they'd be willing to go off in a quiet corner and do it on their own. So rather than pushing students into activities that you think will look good on an application, it's really important to make sure that your child feels good doing them, because then your child will be able to talk about that really articulately in an interview, write about that really well in the activities list or in a personal essay. So really making sure that your child is doing different activities, trying new things, but really truly happily engaged in what they're doing is one of the important keys to success, and also to a fruitful high school career.
I should add that more is not better.
Exactly right.
Right? It's
yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely. Having one or two activities that really matter can be equally as effective, if not more effective, than being involved in a million clubs, right? Over subscribing to a lot of things. Okay, so one of the things we wanted to talk with you about this evening is how we approach an individual assessment and create an action plan for students at different grade levels. And I did see in the poll, and this is one of the reasons why we shared that poll with you, that we have quite a few ninth grade parents here tonight. And that is great, because ninth grade is a fabulous time to start thinking about this process. If not only to just have a sense that there are those essays out there and there's this activities list with 10 different slots, right, that a student could potentially fill in, to really start looking at your ninth graders' extracurriculars, looking at their academics and figuring out, okay, so what are this person's strengths right now? and where can we go from here, right? Where are the places where we can build on strengths, and where are some places where we can address some areas for growth and allow that growth to happen. As I said, high school students can transform before our eyes, right? So if you start something now in 9th grade, by 11th grade, you might have someone who's really good at something that they hadn't even thought about before, right? So if you're in 9th grade, you have 3 years ahead of you, high school. And one of the most important things to do in high school is to do really, really well in school, right? Your GPA is going to matter. Your performance in your classes will matter. And that's not only connected to your development academically, but also the relationships you might be building with teachers and things like that, because some of those teachers are going to write your recommendation letters, right? So to begin thinking about, not in a hugely, narrow college, I'm only doing this to get into college kind of way. But again, to go back to that authentic engagement and find what are the courses that are appropriate, that are the best courses, that are going to push this student to be the best they can be, right? And that they'll get enjoyment out of. So you also have 3 summers if you're in 9th grade to plan really valuable, really excellent experiences for your child and to engage them in the process of planning. And then to also look at the activities outside of school, which may be extracurriculars connected to school or may be from outside of school, such as an outside club or a job or a volunteer experience. And it's really, really important for the child to start to take ownership of this, because they are in high school starting to develop that independence that you want them to have, so that when they go away to college, they're really ready to fly on their own and they've built up their confidence. So when we engage with students, we always work on goal setting, and we always work on helping them to develop their engagement and to figure out, maybe they have a hidden strength, maybe they have an interest that they didn't even know they had. We do a lot of exploration, and we of course build on the strengths that they come to us with. So supporting families and students through this process, again, it's one of our favorite things to do. And if you're in grade 10, we still have 2 years and 2 summers. If you're in grade 11, we've got a year and a summer. And then we launch right into that college application process. So when we build an action plan for a student, like if you're in 9th grade, if you have a 9th grade student, look at all these opportunities, right, that your 9th grader might be able to engage in, particularly 1 through 4, because number 5 is where our 11th graders are right now, right, starting to build on that college application process. But as a 9th grader or a 10th grader, what leadership roles could you take? How are you going to spend your summers? Are there some competitions where you could demonstrate some of your ability in a certain area? And what interest-based activities are you engaged in that you really love, right? If you're not sure about these, you don't really have anything going on. I mean, honestly, there is no shame right now in a student not having anything going on, given what we've been through over the past couple of years. It's been really hard for a lot of students to engage in activities. And that's one of the things we're in the process of helping people rebuild, right, is their connection to activities, extracurriculars, and in-person experiences, right? Because a lot of those went on hold in the pandemic times. This is just a quick look at our college application consultant service and how it goes. And again, that self-improvement part, we really work on with students. If you have an opportunity to increase your GPA, our company offers summer programming that we'll take a look at just really, again, briefly. We work with you to identify the students' strengths, interests, see what their passions are, and build on that. And then the really deliberate work of matching the student to the college, right, it's a huge job. And that's one of the joys of this work, is to, look at a map of the world or a map of this country and really dig in with a student and figure out, where do you want to be, what size school, what kind of location, and to really encourage you as a family to start having conversations about how far would you like to travel, how high do you want to set your admissions goals, right? Do you want to go for a really highly competitive school, and what will that require of you? Those kinds of conversations are good to have as a family, and we like to engage you to have those conversations with us as well. And then of course we go through every bit of the application with you. from just the transcript, the essay, the activities, prepping you for interviews, helping you to think about scholarship opportunities, figuring out which teachers or mentors should write your recommendation letters, and then that for some people, that athletic recruitment piece, or looking at what type of athletic school you might want to join if you're an athlete and you enjoy that. And then we stay with you all the way through your process as you get your decision letters. You end up on a wait list. We offer support for that. And one of the big things I should not forget to mention is that helping a student find an early decision school is a major treasure hunt and well worth the effort if you're able to apply early decision, which is a binding commitment between you and the college. If they accept you, you will go and you will pay. So if you are able to pay and you can make that commitment early, it does increase the student's chances of admission, right? So that is a good goal. It also means that by December of your senior year, you're all done with this process and you know where you're going, and you don't have to wait to find out later on in the spring, where you've been admitted and then make that decision. But whatever path you choose on this roadmap to college success, we'll be right by your side and support you all the way. Just a quick overview of a few things we offer through Booming Minds Education. We have competed in all of these competitions right here this year, and we're always adding new ones as we learn of them. But we very recently had a group of 3 students who joined together from different schools, form a team for the Future Business Leaders of America competition, and they placed 3rd in New York State recently and are going off to nationals this summer. So we're especially proud of them, and we're sending them up against really large schools with big teams, but we give them a lot of individual attention, help prepare them, and we were thrilled with their success this year. We've had winners in the Scholastic Writing Contest, finalists in New York Times. We have a lot of Science Olympiad and science research winners as well. So really, this is something that we specialize in. And again, we work with you and the student to figure out, well, which one of these to focus on. So you can't do all of this at once, right? But if you have 3 summers, you can do a little bit more, right? So that's great. These are just some overviews of these programs: National History Day, the Regeneron Science Talent Search, and the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, which are all really great opportunities for high school students. We always encourage the high school students to participate in these programs, because if you're an adult, when you become an adult, these opportunities aren't just sitting there right in front of you anymore. And so it's really great to take advantage of them while these organizations are looking for high school talent. These doors are open, right, at this point, and they do close once you leave high school. And this is just a really quick look at our summer course offerings. I know Jennifer can send you a detailed flyer and also links to our webpage if you'd like to learn more. But we offer these summer courses to really help students develop their talents and challenge themselves, because again, that GPA is a really important part of their college application. And some students are unable to pursue some of these subjects on their own in school. We often meet students who have been self-educating at the AP level, and we're just thrilled to be able to connect them with teachers who can give them the kind of support they need to really excel in the coursework for the AP, and then also for the testing, of course. And a quick word on athletics. So we've divided this into a couple of different areas. If you have a child who loves to play sports, there are many ways to play, and your child can find a college where it will be possible to play. If you have an exceptional athlete in your family, and you're the parent of a 9th grader, you probably already know if your child is going to be recruited by a Division I athletic school. Okay, these schools recruit outstanding athletes. Coaches start looking for them, seeing them play, collecting videos of them playing, and they offer major scholarships. And Division 2 is just a little bit below Division 1 in the level of play. And they don't offer quite as many scholarships, but it's still a very intense athletic experience. And then Division 3, which do not confuse Division 3 with not the best schools, okay? Division 3 schools offer incredibly great athletic experiences, but also allow the student to prioritize their academics, right? So there are a lot of Division 3 schools in the top 20 colleges, and the coaches can support certain applicants, right? If they hear about you, or if you approach them, you say, I'd like to play for your team. A coach might put a good word in for you with admissions. They can't really actively recruit you in the same way that the Division 1 schools do. But this is a really exciting opportunity if you happen to have a student with extreme talent or just a deep love of a sport. You can find a way to involve your child in those things. And the best way is to approach coaches with a lot of self-confidence. And also, if your child's been intensively involved in sports all through their childhood and is ready to take a kind of more mellow approach, there are club sports in college and also alternative sports. Famously, Middlebury College formed the very first collegiate Quidditch team for the Harry Potter fans. Students ran out on fields with actual broomsticks and chased a member of the track team around dressed in a golden suit. So there's really a lot on college campuses in this area, and it doesn't all have to be about recruitment, but it can be a very important part of the student's application if the student really loves a certain sport or sports. All right. We will now transition to our question and answer session. We have 2 breakout rooms. And if you'd like to join us in breakout room 1 for Q&A in English, please do so. And if you'd like to join us in breakout room number 2, that will be in Chinese. And maybe Faye, you want to say that in Chinese?
Yes. Well, 我们会有2个 breakout room. Yeah, we're gonna have 2 breakout rooms. So one is for English and one is for in Chinese if you are interested in.